Welcome back to the Kingsway Podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in. Back with Jed.
Hey.
What's up, man?
Nothing.
Today's
Nothing
a little
at all.
different. Nothing a
little
little different.
Yeah.
We both just said we've been crawling through this week. We've been surviving.
That's the truth.
We are in a new location. If you're watching on YouTube, we are in Dumbledore's basement. That's where we are.
Yeah.
Also, the OCC library could be
it. I mean, that might be it.
That might
Maybe.
be it.
We'll see. We'll see.
New setup. You did not get to see Jed as he did the Twister game of the setup routine to get all this stuff set up. But I'm excited you're listening in. Excited you're here.
You can see all the mess that I made on this table.
I really think if you can, it's perfect for this.
Sweet.
We're gonna do something a little different. We've done.
I'm gonna interrupt you real quick.
Something like this before. Yeah, go ahead.
Because I don't want you to get into what you have planned before I say something.
Oh gosh, yes, go ahead.
So I started watching The Chosen this week.
Oh snaps! Let's go!
I know
it only took you 2 months, Jed.
I know that we've talked about this a bunch on here. So if you're sick of this, skip ahead 5 minutes and we'll be on something else. But
bring it.
But yeah, hey, I watched one episode. So I started doing this thing. Harkening back to the old days of television.
Okay.
Whenever the program you wanted to watch was on once a week at a specific time.
So that's what you've been doing.
Well, not the specific time part, but I have like a schedule, 7 shows that I watch one episode of a day.
A day? So every day you're watching a different episode?
Yes, of a different show, yeah. So on Sundays, I watch The Chosen. I just started on Sunday. So I watched one episode, episode 1.
Yeah.
It was way better than I thought it would
I told you, man. The ending with Mary is so
It was good.
Man.
It was good. My favorite part was how mild spoilers.
Mild, but that's first episode.
Yeah, Jesus doesn't show up until the very end of the episode. The way they set up Jesus' entrance was my favorite part. Because you've seen this, but for the people listening, you follow Nicodemus.
What?
Who's that guy?
Yeah. Just go look at John 3.
Yeah. This a rabbi, a teacher, a Jewish teacher, as he's kind of being a little bit manipulated by these Roman centurions, and they make him go into like the red district? Is that what they called it?
It's like the slums.
Where this woman is possessed by many demons, and he goes in, tries to evict them, and they're just like, oh, you can't do anything to us. You got nothing. But he says something to his wife the night after that, where he's talking about this woman, and he says, only God could have helped her. And I was like, all right. You're setting it up a little bit.
Well, and then he has like the whole thing to his students where he's like, some people are beyond human help.
Yeah.
Like, and he says that like line, and I'm like, I like this.
They set it up so well. And like the first time you see Peter, he's literally like in a fight.
Yep.
He's like, but so, it was.
I'm really glad
there
you're
was some
starting
cheese.
the journey.
There was some cheese.
Absolutely.
But
I think the first episode is one of my least favorites. So if you like it, then I'm like, you're good. Because I've told most people get to episode 3. And then I think after that, it's all downhill. Like you're waiting because it really is just, it's phenomenal. I'm really excited to hear that you've watched it. I know that I've had a couple other people actually reach out and say that they enjoyed it. It's one of those things that season 2 is now in production.
Yeah.
And the scene that the setting that they got is spectacular. And if you're interested in looking into that, go onto YouTube and just type in season 2 of The Chosen. Yeah. And I think you'll find some cool stuff.
It's the production of it that wins it, because so the scene where Nicodemus goes to the woman who's possessed by the demons is as creepy as anything I've seen in any demon movie you watch. Like,
it's not holding back at all. And I definitely had this moment where I could tell Nicodemus, and they got a good cast. I mean, you could tell he was.
And the best thing is they introduce Nicodemus, but they don't go Nicodemus, wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Exactly. And the whole show is that way, because Peter's even the same way too, where like they're and his brother's there, and you can tell they're trying to like connive and work it out. And do. I just love it. I love it. I'm glad you. I'm glad you dove in, and I'm excited that you're trying that way. What other things are you watching? Or there's some other things that you're watching during the week.
I've been watching Mr. Robot. but that's for a while.
I don't know what that is.
So Mr. Robot it's on Amazon.
Okay.
It was pretty popular for a while. It's about this guy who he's a hacker, and he's kind of manipulated by his father. There's a whole dynamic. I can't say a lot without giving away spoilers. I mean,
what's it rated?
I recommend it to certain people. It's a TV mature,
Okay.
so it's like, I mean, you think of it as rated R.
Yeah.
So like I recommend it to people who can handle it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I mean,
like,
it just helps like it's a hacker / suspense thriller.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's good.
I watched the first episode of Cobra Kai, the TV show.
Watched the first season
out of the Karate Kid. It was fun.
It's garbage TV, but I absolutely love it. It's total on it plays on this heartthrob.
Oh, it absolutely does. Yeah,
it's remember all the good feels.
There's nothing original about it. It's all cliche, but I'm just like, I'll keep watching it.
Yeah. That movie was made the year I was born.
Yeah,
and so the original Karate Kid with Daniel, whatever his name is.
Gage and I watched it a couple of weeks ago
for the first time.
Wait, no.
Okay,
no, I've seen the original trilogy before,
dude,
and
nothing's like the first one.
I think the only Karate Kid movie I haven't seen is it Hilary Swank in the next Karate Kid.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what you're talking about. But I see the cover in my mind.
Yeah, it's Mr. Miyagi, and but it's a new kid. It's a girl. I think she's played by Hilary Swank, but I can't remember. I don't think I've seen that.
I know they tried to reboot it a couple times. Will Smith's kid was in the newer one with Jackie Chan. It's not a bad one. It's not a bad one at all.
Yeah, but it's not even karate. They're always learning kung fu. Anyway, I sidetracked the whole podcast.
No. This is exactly a good intro to the whole podcast, because all I was going to say is we kind of got a shotgun effect today. I want to talk about a few different things, going over the first kind of thing that I was just going to say is we started a new series at Kingsway that just came out. We're going to have Eric and Maurice White, there, that I know they're on the podcast this week and Sunday, but we started a series called Back to Basics, and really has been really fun, honestly, to kind of jump into kind of back to what really gets things started, and what really, when crap hits the fan, when things don't go well, when you're stripped back and you're like, well, all right, how do I rebuild my life or what I do? And the illustrations on Sunday, it's like you lose a really big game in sports and your coach is like, we're going back to the basics.
Yeah.
Or you get hurt and you have to go to physical therapy and you're reworking a part of your body and you're trying to figure out what motions do I need?
Yeah.
Or if you're severely hurt and you're just learning how to walk again, or learning how to eat again. Or if you feel like you've made some really poor decisions in your life and you're like, how did I get here? You start over. You're like, all right, if I have these consequences, what are the choices that I need to make in order to undo those? And so, the series we started with the heart this last week, which I thought was really poignant. I think it's an incredibly good place to start. And we use, Proverbs and several different places that Jesus himself talks about the importance of the heart. Interesting thing, because I know you're in Hebrew, there is no Hebrew word for brain.
Yeah.
And so the heart has a little bit of a blend of more brain and heart characteristics. They knew it was an organ in your chest, but they gave it more of the brain mentality, in the sense of thoughts and emotions and all that, which I was like, oh, that makes a lot more sense in the sense of your thought life and your choices and your emotions.
That's why whenever in the Shema, the prayer that the Hebrews would say when they say love the Lord with all your heart, it's more of an entirety of your being than just your emotion.
And I used the Shema in the sermon on Sunday. And talks about the why that heart, and then the eternal part of you, which is your soul, and then your mind is kind of your it's almost like your perseverance, your purpose, kind of like this eternal moving forward, going forward. But the heart was the thing I leaned on, and the ending thing that we kind of started with was just kind of the thought of how do we get our hearts to the right place? Because Jesus came for brokenhearted people.
Yeah.
And so if Jesus came for brokenhearted people, that means that our minds, our thoughts, our emotions, who we are as a whole needs reshaping. And so it talked about 3 simple ways to kind of improve your heart towards what God or what Jesus would want. And so I talked about posture, prayer, and then fasting. And so just talked about how sometimes your hands can get ahead of your thought life, or like how it can lead you to better things. It's almost like just show up is kind of like the characteristics to, like, if you just show up and you put yourself in the right place, a lot of times that's the first step to success. Well, why is that? Doesn't mean your attitude's great. Doesn't mean your mind's right. But man, just physically getting there. I talked about getting on your knees to pray. I talked about when you give a hug to somebody, it says so much more than, just this physical expression of this posture of friendship. So challenge people to just use that in a positive way. And then prayer obviously is, I think it's the exercise of the heart. I think it's like when you pray, it's not always comfortable. Sometimes takes work. Yeah. It's not always easy. And so you're just talking about like praying out loud, especially, is really good for your heart. It's really good for your heart. It's
on exercise. The subject of prayer. Yeah. So I'm in a class on 1 Timothy and everything. So in the beginning of chapter 2, that's something that Paul tells Timothy and everybody else, assuming that people will read it, is pray. We just had a memory work on that this morning, and I can't remember it. So everything's going great.
It's going great. We're surviving this week. Remember, Jed? That's how we started the podcast. We're surviving.
But Mike Ackerman, who's my professor for that class, says something that really stuck with me, because prayer is something that I struggle with doing regularly because it can feel almost pointless, especially if you do it a lot and you don't see any movement. And then if you think of, like, for me, what's kind of been the thing that holds me back is like, well, if what's going to happen is what was going to happen from the very beginning, what's the point of me praying? But what Mike Ackerman says is, and so he used he says he tells this to his children all the time, is obey, then ask why. And so we're told to pray a lot. And I feel like Paul says it more than Jesus actually does, but Jesus obviously assumes we're going to pray.
Yep. When you pray.
And he models that. And so that's just been something that's stuck with me for a bit. It's like, all right, well then, like if I'm supposed to do it, I guess I'll do it, and then assume that I just don't need to know right now.
For sure. And that's exactly what I said in my sermon, was when I pray with my kids at night, and I pray out loud, and I pray the same silly prayer over and over again. Because let's be honest, if you're a parent of multiple children that are under the age of 10, nighttime every day is a struggle. It's almost like Rochambeau in the back with my wife and I to see who's going to put them to sleep. And I wish it was more of a loving, caring, compassionate, but most of the time it's just like, oh, please just go to bed. And so I pray the same prayer every time. I say, we're going to learn, laugh, listen, and love well. We're going to love Jesus more. And we're going to choose to be kind and to be gentle, to be a good friend, to grow strong, and to pursue Christ. Something around those lines. The love, laugh, listen, and learn, laugh, listen, and love. I say almost every night. Like that's our goal in our house, to do that, and then love Jesus more as we do. And it's funny how they will, if I don't say that, they will be like, "Hey, you didn't say that," and like they remember. Yeah, it imprints. And so I know, even when I speak out loud, it's doing the same thing to my heart. Like it's doing the same thing, and it's exercise. Like I know it's not like a magic genie that keeps things away, but man, it makes a big difference in a lot of things. Like exercise.
I guess that's just says there's something to Jesus saying, out of the heart the mouth speaks.
Absolutely, man. And that's exactly, and a lot of, where your heart is, your treasure is also, like the things you speak about, the things you talk about, that's what you treasure. And so just learning to pray well anyway. Yeah. So, then I ended with fasting, and I actually started the whole sermon by, saying like, I'm going to end with something that's going to make you really uncomfortable. Because I know that fasting is one of those things that like people know that we're challenged to do it. Yeah. And it's talked about and mentioned several times in scripture. And if you don't know what fasting is, very quick definition is just removing something in your life and replacing it with God.
Yeah, that's replacing it is key, and I feel like that's something we forget a lot.
And so it's hard in the sense of like choosing to remove something for your life on purpose for disciplinary reasons, and to choose to say, maybe I've made this an idol, or maybe I do this, or just honestly to make yourself a little bit more uncomfortable, a little bit more aware, a little bit more sensitive. So I called it making space for your heart to grow. That's what I said, just creating space for your heart to grow. Because a lot of times I think the things, even myself, when I chose to fast before, when you go into the fast, you think you're going to go towards one way.
Yeah.
And then you get about halfway through it and you're like, nope, God's teaching me something completely different. Or just I was trying to explain this to somebody else I was talking to us about, but like even your just perspective on things you thought you knew, I think just get a little bit like, oh, I thought I had a good understanding of that, or I thought I knew what that meant, or I thought I had the truth of that. And so, that was a big challenge. I took on the stupid challenge, which saying it on the podcast almost defeats its purpose, but we'll let Jesus judge my heart. But I just wanted to encourage you. I'm actually trying to do for the first time ever a 7-day fast. Now, I have never done anything. I've done a 6-day one like forever ago. And it has been one of those things you even like, did you prepare yourself? Did you do some things? I'm like, nope, cold turkey. Just jump into it. I had Panda Express the night before and, just going in. And it has been one of the most challenging things. But, I say this and we say this all the time. When you can position yourself in a place where you're walking with Jesus and you're being obedient and you're doing what you're supposed to do, it's such a rare thing sometimes. And I feel like in fasting, I don't doubt that. Doesn't mean I'm enjoying it, nor that I'm having a blast most of the time as I drink my water. But it's been good. And I challenge those that are watching, like 7 days is a imbecilic idea if you've never done one. Like that is the stupidest thing. And I haven't done one in a while, so I should have done something different. But, God's in this. I would just challenge you to try a day. Yeah. Try a day of going without food and a 7-day fast with no food. That's what I'm doing. I don't know if I've ever said that, but 1 day without food or 2 days without food. It is a spectacular way to figure out your attitude, to figure out how well you really do trust God, and then to just test your self-control and some of that. And then also it is a shot in the arm for your posture in your prayer life. And that was kind of the conclusion. I was like, you want to learn how to find the right posture? Fast for a couple of days. You want to learn how to pray a little louder? Fast for a couple of days. I promise you. You're like, God, why? So, encourage that, those that are listening and stuff, say, hey, as you're, trying to figure some stuff out, or, maybe you're in a time of searching, or maybe it's just time of anger or resentment with the current situation, or maybe it's just confusion and frustration. I think fasting is a great tool that we have control of, an easy way to just kind of get ourselves to wake up a little bit and to kind of see the world around us. So it's cool. I don't know. I know you've done a few too, and it's been an encouraging thing to you. And I actually enjoyed our conversation right before we started this too. Where I was like, this is rough. Let's do this. One of the other things I wanted to talk about, and I actually had this experience because I went to Chipotle right before I came here to buy a gift card. And it was one of those things where I walked up, and we had talked about this on the podcast before. We've had those, those moments where we're like, all right, we got to just talk about the real life things. Yeah. But Joplin is where we're at. I mean, Dumbledore's. Yeah. And but Joplin's where we're at. And I walked in, and I knew Joplin's mask ordinance had ended. Yeah. But so I didn't have one with me. But then I walked up, and they had like a mask required on Chipotle's
Yeah, that's a kind of place-by-place basis now.
And so I was like, oh, man. So I had to go back to my car, and I was like, please do I have a mask in here? Because I've used them several times, and I have the disposable ones. Yeah. And I had one, and so I put it on, and I walked in and walked out. And I want to have the conversation again, because I feel like as much as the scientific data is changing or whatever is happening, I never feel like I know the truth. Yeah. As no one does. But I know there's credible things out there and that science can be trusted. We shouldn't ignore all that stuff. However, I think there's a part of this that on the ground in our lives, we have to recognize, where are we at on this? So, because our cases are dropping a little bit around us. There's not a whole lot of the mass death is not happening. A lot of people have died, and we're not trying to ignore that. But it's not like 30 million Americans are dying and we're all infected. Yeah. So, there's a part of me in my mind that, that goes that direction. And then there's another part of me that goes but I need to obey, right? Yeah. I have to do it. So, so here's what I decided walking out. I've solved the problem. You don't believe me. You don't believe
I'm skeptical.
You don't believe me. No. And this is what I've decided in not knowing all the data at this point, wanting to, wearing a mask when asked to is common courtesy.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've decided it is in my mind. It is opening the door for someone else.
Yeah.
It is saying please and thank you.
Mm-hmm.
It is just common courtesy.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit more uncomfortable at times. And it's not fun. But to me, it is the extra mile of just showing people that you're willing to care about them. You're willing to follow through with this, even if it is a little inconvenient for you. And what it felt like to me was like a moment where I'm like, okay, I can label that. It's not political. It's not me saying like I'm scared.
Yeah.
It's not me saying like, I'm a lamb to the slaughter in the sense of following somebody's, facts or whatever. I'm just seeing it as, how can anyone interpret me wearing that any other way than saying he cares?
Yeah.
How can he? And in my mind, that's where I'm at. Holding a door for a woman, they look at you, you're a sexist. You can't open the door yourself. Or, having someone say, please and thank you. You don't have to do that, right? Well, you don't always have to do that. We're not your grandma's house, or whatever. But I think there's just a part of me that I've decided that's where it fits for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I have a chance to be courteous and kind and to show that, in a way, I just think it is productive.
Yeah.
In my mindset.
That's awesome.
And so I don't know if that helps anyone out there listening. And I don't know if you're at where you're in a family where the red and blue war is still on and November hasn't come to quell it or fire it back up again. Or I don't know if you're drinking Coronas or if you're just waiting Corona to die. I don't know where we're at. We've probably got people on both sides of that. But I think common courtesy is never going to go out of style, no matter what happens. And so teaching yourself and growing in your ability to do that and to have a good attitude with it and to do it well. My mom would be proud, but I'm not perfect. So just know that. But I think that's kind of where I'm labeled. Do you have any thoughts on that? Or do you think that does that label that well, or does that help?
I mean, yeah, I totally agree. I hope that it helps put it in a frame of reference that people can get on board with it. I'm definitely not the guy that's pushing masks on everybody or, on campus, we do still have a mask ordinance. We're wearing masks through class every day.
Yeah.
And
which I would hate.
Yeah. It's not fun.
I was going to say, I would hate
and
that.
So it's, I'm not the guy that if I see somebody not wearing a mask, I'm going to go up and be like, guys, you need to put the mask on or anything.
If someone didn't open the door or someone didn't say please or thank you.
Exactly. Yeah. So I think it provides a great frame of reference. I think it's good.
But when I see, that's the thing. I am not the person that jumps on the negative bandwagon, but I notice it when someone does it. Does that make like even was at a wedding and there was only 2 people in the entire room. There's probably 250 people that were wearing it, and I was thinking I don't want to look at them as like the left or right. I don't want to look at them as like this alien that's making a statement. I want to look at them and think, that's courteous. That's uncomfortable. Yeah. That's not nice. But man, that's nice. Thank you for doing that for me. Now, did I wear mine? No. I'm not saying that I do it every time. I'm just saying there are certain places that I think we need to start changing our mindset and the way we think about this and not let the other things sway it. Just see it as what it plainly is. Yeah. It's just common courtesy, especially when you're asked and especially when it's something that others around you obviously would like it to be. I think it's something that, to make it more than that, I think just breaks kind of a little bit of what Jesus would want us to do. Now, that's my personal opinion. That's where I'm at. But I think it helps me to label it as common courtesy, which is, I think, healthy. Yeah, truly, I agree. Truly healthy. Yeah. I want to give kind of a small update here at the end as kind of a teaser to, the direction of our podcast. We are planning to do a weekly podcast for the rest of the year. Yeah. So that is the goal. We've had some transitions and obviously Jed is no longer a person on staff at Kingsway, but he has committed to, finishing the podcast out for the year. And I'm excited for that. And I know we probably should have said that a little earlier, but I'm hopeful that if you're listening to this, that you're still tuning in and still, showing up every week to check us out. Yeah. I can tell you this. I want to do some fun stuff coming up. We're going to do a top 10 books that we've ever read. Jeez. I know. That's harder than movies for me. I know. And so I want to do that with you and maybe if someone else that we have as a reader, because that's the other thing. We don't have a ton of readers. Yeah. And here's the other thing too. It can be fiction and nonfiction. Yeah. because I don't want to just label one. And if we have some readers that listen, I think they'll really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then I think the other thing I want to do is a top 10 songs.
Okay.
I want to do top 10 songs because we haven't done that either. And so that I think would be fun to have those to look forward to. I don't know when we'll be able to get those on, but I think before the end of the year, those are at least two things we'll be doing.
That would be fun.
I want to do a sports episode with you so bad. I'm dying to do a sports episode as football's kicking off and things are going to swing.
Man, I'll talk circles around you about the sports.
If you don't
ball
know, Jed is a sports expert.
I like sports and I don't care who knows.
And by that, I mean he is not a sports fan in any way. And
Patrick Mahomes.
You just said is such a dork. I am excited at the possibilities of what that podcast could be. So I know I say all that to say, like, obviously we're still going to do some context clues and we'll still have some fun things off the cuff that we're going to do. And I'm hopeful that we might even do one, like if you have a project coming up where you're studying a specific section of scripture where we could let you dive in to kind of lay that out. And then I could kind of do my own study and then bring it and be the devil's advocate and try to pretend like I know Hebrew. And
I do have a word study that I have to do in Hebrew before the end of the year.
There you go. If the Bible Project hasn't done it, we're in trouble. So, I say all that to say, like, if you're listening still, and I told you this was going to be a little bit of a shotgun thing, chosen kind of sermon breakdown, and then, kind of this new idea of being courteous, by wearing a mask. I want to give you something to look forward to as we go forward. Those types of things are coming soon, and I'm excited to see what those top 10s are going to be like. I'm excited for that sports episode like crazy. And then I thought it would be fun, and I really thought it would be fun to do a breakdown on either Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings and talk through either of those.
And why Lord of the Rings is superior in every way.
Or just specifically talk through the trilogy of those of those series, like the Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter debate. And just talk about like why those rage on, and there are definitely victors in those that go beyond personal preference. If that makes sense, it's a sense of growth.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings wins every time.
I'm saying all that to say, like, our podcast is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited to continue kind of growth spiritually, but learning to love and learning to learn is really important to us. So both of those topics flow about a plethora of things. And we know that you don't just listen for one little Bible verse, but you also listen for the personality and the fun that we have with the topics that we're doing. We're always looking for ideas and some things that you're looking for. So some of the things we spoke out, if you're like, man, I would love to hear that, that may be the reason we film that next. So if you just heard one of the things that we're talking about and you're like, I want to know your top 10 books. I want to know your top 10 songs. I want that sports episode with Jed right now. That could be the key. Or if it's just something that you have a section of scripture or something that you're looking at or a book that you're like, you want us to read a book and then talk about it. We probably don't have time for that now.
Yeah.
But
I'm reading 7 books right now.
But if it's a book we've already read, we could definitely talk about it. So, hey, thanks so much for tuning in today. I hope today was a little bit of fun. And I hope that you take away some things and maybe challenge yourself to posture prayer and maybe take on a fast. Maybe the next time you see somebody wearing a mask or you choose to put one on, you see it as common courtesy.
I hope the audio is still recording.
I hope so too. And I also hope that you check out The Chosen just like Jed finally did. Hey, you guys have a great and glorious day in the Lord. We'll see you later.